Good morning, good morning. This is Nick Freitas filling in for John Fredericks on a much-needed, much-deserved vacation. And here we are in our final segment. Here it is, the moment you've been waiting for, the Disruptor segment. This is where we talk about one of those candidates that is out there making waves in the press, challenging an incumbent Democrat and someone that we think is a race to watch. So with us on the phone is none other than Lieutenant Colonel Robert Patterson, Buzz Patterson, running for Congress in the Congression, the 7th District in California. And I got to tell you, Colonel Patterson, I've actually got family that lives in Rockland, which is just to the north of where you're at right now, so I'm familiar with your area. But please tell us some more about your story and why you're running.
Hey, good morning, Nick. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, so I'm a retired Air Force pilot. I spent 20 years flying around the world, seeing duty in 69 countries and 6 continents. Retired from the Air Force in 2001. Went to fly for the commercial airliners, Delta Airlines, as a matter of fact, moved to California. So I've been out here since probably for 14, 15 years and have watched the degradation of California. And, and just watching what's happening in our inner cities, watching what's happening with our Democratic leadership out here. And I use that term loosely, leadership, because we've had none out here in the last 30 some odd years, basically. So I'm running for California 7. I'm a fighter. I'm a pilot. I've been in combat. And, if you're a California resident out here, Nick, you've got 2 choices. You can either flee, which most of us are doing, as a matter of fact. A lot of the tax base has left California, and you can flee or you can fight. And again, I've been in combat. I'm not one of those to walk away easily. I've got a family. I got kids in school out here. We love California for the most part. We're not crazy about the politics, but we're going to change it. And I think we can swing this. It's a toss-up district. My opponent is a medical doctor, Dr. Ami Bera, who actually, Nick, has never practiced medicine a day in his life. But if you go to his website, he's got his lab coat on, the stethoscope around his neck, and he coming across to you as he's like your favorite doctor that'll make house calls. So we're having a lot of fun with it, and we're going to win. So it's exciting times.
Well, good for you. I remember being a young paratrooper. I think I was a young paratrooper, and oh gosh, no, I was going through the Special Forces qualification course actually, and I read Dereliction of Duty. And I was really impressed with your experience on that and kind of your insight. And I remember at that point too, you were at that point you were carrying the nuclear football for President Clinton. And right. I remember you were talking about all the things that you guys were witnessing as the military personnel responsible for that duty, and how frustrated you were. And I remember at one point you guys, if I remember correctly, you guys were considering resigning as a form of protest, and you came to the conclusion that no. You have to have people that are willing to fight in the right position doing their job. And so you stayed true to the job, you stayed true to the office, even though you had an issue with the person that was currently occupying it.
That's exactly right. And that's all in dereliction duty, as you pointed out, Nick. Yeah, there's 5 military aides, 1 from each of the services, and we rotate responsibility with the nuclear football, both living, we had an office in the White House and a bedroom in the White House, and one of us would be with President Clinton 24/7. And yeah, we were outraged, quietly outraged what we were watching go on with that man and our military as our commander-in-chief. And we all contemplated at one point resigning. We had one of us, I won't name the service, we had one of us who was not willing to do that, so we decided to stay, bonded as a team. And we also realized that we were there to support the office, to serve the office of the presidency, Nick, and not the human being. So we stayed. We did our job loyally. We saluted smartly, and did what President Clinton wanted us to do. When I retired from the Air Force in 2001, I was actually really encouraged by my former military aide brothers and sisters to write dereliction of duty. I've never written anything in my entire life, but I put pen to paper and wrote dereliction, and it became a New York Times bestseller. It's still doing pretty well 16 years later. And I think, Nick, you served, I serve, a lot of us serve, and I think, we take an oath of office. And a lot of us don't let that oath of office die when we leave the services. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important that, my oath never dies, right? I swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States of America, and I'm going to do that. And so my oath never dies, and we're still out here, whether we're in uniform or not, right, Nick? We still serve, and that's what we're doing.
Well, I think that's one of the things that's so fascinating about our oath. If you look at the oaths of other countries throughout times, you were swearing allegiance to a king or a queen or a potentate or a leader. We swear ours to the Constitution of the United States, and your obligation to the commander-in-chief is again within the idea of all lawful orders. And again, I find it. Again, part of services is you don't always get to choose who your leaders are, but you have an obligation to faithfully serve the Constitution. And I think, you certainly did that. So I'm definitely familiar with California. I was actually born in Chico, California.
No kidding. My wife's from there.
Oh, no kidding.
Chico girl.
Yeah. So my wife and I were both born there. And then I went to the military right out of high school. But I'll tell you what it is. Like you said, it's a beautiful place. It's got all kinds of economic advantages when you look at soil and ports and weather and everything else. And then you look at the way it's being managed right now. And I feel like the Democrats are they already proved with Detroit that they could take the second wealthiest city in America and destroy it. And now I feel like they're trying to say, we could do this with an entire state. Let's pick the most wealthiest, prosperous state that we have right now. Let's take the fourth biggest economy in the world, and let's see if we can just tank this thing. When I look at what Governor Newsom is doing, what Brown was doing before that, it is just insanity. So how do you wade into that environment? Do you think that more and more Californians, because like you said, I've got a lot of friends out there that I still have, and they are packing up and they are voting with their feet. But we need people to stay there and to fight and to carry the good message of property rights and limited government. What do you see as the political landscape now in your district, and what sort of arguments are you making to remind Californians, right, take pride in being free people? You don't got to just do what Newsom's telling you.
Well, that's a great question. I'll tell you, there's several things. As you point out, this used to be the once Golden State. People loved being here. People were flocking here back in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, and now people are flocking out of here in record numbers. Yeah. And, it's all, I think, it's symptomatic, Nick, of what socialist Democrats believe. Like as you pointed out, this is one of the largest economies in the world, and we have a public school system rated number 48.
Wow.
There's something wrong with that. You look at, and in my district, which actually is Sacramento and east, so it goes up to the foothills. It's, like you said, it's just a little bit south, a little bit south of Rockland. Goes down to Lodi and into the farms and the vineyards down in Lodi near Stockton, that area. And you look at what's happened over the years. In my district, which has got a white collar, a very big white collar community, it's got a very big, it's got a Silicon Valley feel to it. A lot of IT and tech there. But the unemployment rate in California District 7 is 14%.
Oh my God!
So why has the rest of the country accelerated and having record unemployment numbers, and California 7's got 14%? It doesn't add up, and it means that what the leadership is doing in that area is absolutely not working. The funny thing also, Nick, and I like to tell friends this, is that if I do get elected, and I will, in California 7, Gavin Newsom will be one of my constituents. So I really look forward to that day when he has to look up to me as his congressman. So we're going to have fun with that.
Oh my! Well, I'll tell you what. Watching the sort of policies that I remember when he was, reading about him, mayor of San Francisco, and you see some of the. It's heartbreaking to see the homelessness situation in San Francisco. To see this kind of proud city being degraded in so many ways just by these policies, which completely stunt economic development in some ways, and then create an environment where here you are, a small business owner just trying to get by, and instead of the city actually dealing with the homeless and vagrancy situation, they're allowing people to just camp out front of your store, and it drives away customers, it drives away business. You lose your tax base. Now you don't have the ability to provide some of these people that want the jobs, that want the opportunities, to be able to actually make a living. It's just this self-perpetuating cycle of government knows best nanny statism. And
it's even worse than that. You go downtown Sacramento or L.A., San Francisco, as you point out, the homelessness issue is just. We're not even a third world country in California. We're a fourth world country now. We have people, and it's really sad. And a lot of these folks are homeless vets. But at the same time, Nick, we're giving illegal aliens coming across the border from the south, we're giving them free medical care. Mm-hmm. Well, nobody else in California gets free medical care.
Yeah.
Certainly not the homeless vet that are on the streets of Sacramento. I mean, there's something patently wrong with that approach, and it's not going to get any better.
How do they get? That's a big question for me, right? And it's not that we don't have people trying this in Virginia. We do. And we've been able to combat it out here. But how do they get away with the argument? Because there's this idea that Republicans are xenophobic or we don't like immigrants. And nothing's further from the truth. I love it when people want to come to the United States and be a part of the American dream. I think we all do. But when somebody is crossing over illegally, and it's empowering drug cartels or it's empowering these other organizations, and then the politicians are moving massive resources not to say, okay, hey, here's the safe and legal way to come into the country, just go through this prod. They're not doing that. They're encouraging people to come over illegally. It's costing additional resources. It's affecting schools. It's affecting the hospitals of taxpayers. And there just seems something fundamentally unfair about that. I mean, how do they get away with that? And how do you make the argument that no, we're not anti-immigrant, but common sense dictates that just like other countries have a responsibility to take care of their citizens, we have a responsibility to take care of ours, and California's not doing it. How do you do that?
Yeah, that's the $64 million question, and I'll tell you what's happening is the fact that they're prioritizing the California government, the Democrats are prioritizing the illegals over all the other citizens. And I've always been an America first kind of guy, right? I support President Trump, and I think America should be first. We should be taking care of our own first and foremost, and we're not doing that. I mean, Gavin Newsom today would tell you that the homeless problem is due to the lack of affordable housing. Well, that is absolutely 100% not the case. Housing is very expensive in California, but if you go downtown to San Francisco or Los Angeles, and I've been in a lot of these homeless encampments, you realize that it's not a lack of housing situation. It's a mental health issue. It's a drug addiction issue. It's something we have to address as a society, and we're not doing it. And I would also say, in terms of illegal immigration, it affects public schools here. My kids go to public schools. It affects the roads. It affects the hospitals. It affects, virtually everything we do out here to live every single day is impacted by the fact that a lot of our resources go to encouraging these folks to come across the border and then trying to accommodate them once they get here. And it's financially unsustainable.
Yeah.
I mean, California's gone broke. We have broke cities. We have a broke state. It's all because we're a sanctuary state. I mean, we are inviting these folks to come across. Again, as a Christian, I'm a humanitarian. I feel for the plight of these people. But the bottom line is that we here, those of us who are actually here legally, cannot get the services or the education systems or the right to have a say in how our state and our country goes forward. And I think a big mistake people make, Nick, in the rest of the country is that they think California's problems are California's problems. And I will tell you that as big as this state is, the problems move east. They migrate east pretty quickly, and so do a lot of the problems coming across the south, being MS-13, drug and gang issues, crime. That's all coming up to the southern border of California, then moving east. So it's not just a California problem; it's a national problem.
No. Well, it is. It's a stop-off because once you get into California, you can get into the rest of the country really easily. And again, I think it just goes back to this idea that not only is encouraging this kind of behavior bad for U.S. citizens, I think it's bad for people that are trying to get in, that are trying to come to the country legally. They respect our laws. They want to be a part of the American experiment. They're doing it the right way. And here you got, Democrats in California basically ignoring everybody standing in line and telling everybody else, hey, just come on in. And I feel like it's not just bad for U.S. citizens. It's bad for people that are trying to legally immigrate at the same time. So how can it be a pro-immigrant policy when they're doing this?
Yeah, it can't be. And I think, if you're a nation of laws, every nation has the right to sovereignty. Every nation has the right to dictate who comes and who goes, and just to protect. It's a national security issue in my book. So we're penalizing the people who want to do it right, and we're rewarding the people who want to do it wrong, and that is 100% counterintuitive to me. And I know why they do it. I know why California Democrats do it. They want the votes. They want the illegal votes. They want to stack the system. We've got a lot of problems out here in addition to illegal immigration, and one of them is ballot harvesting and voter fraud. And I don't know if we're going to get that cleaned up anytime soon, but we're working on it. But so it's a situation where Democrats are putting one hand over their eyes and saying, "Come on in." At the same time, they're taking money out of your pocket, our pockets, and putting it into another pocket. And it's all about power. It's all about the money. And I think we've demonstrated over the last 30 years or so, California under Democrats is a failure. I mean, there's one common denominator in California. If you go across the entire state into all the major cities, we're largely a red state in the middle and a blue state on the coastline. Mm-hmm. If you go into San Francisco and Los Angeles and San Diego and Sacramento, you're going to see the fact that California is looking the other way because they want to be able to influence elections in the future. We've got 53 congressional seats in the state, and only 8 are held by Republicans. We've got our clock playing in 2018.
Yeah.
So in 2020, I know I've talked to the Trump White House. I know that President Trump's going to prioritize California in the House in 2020. I'm one of the 6 to 8 seats that they've identified, the White House identified, that we can swing in 2020. Yeah. And like I said, we're a D+2 district, so we're basically a toss-up in California.
Yeah.
And right now, it's a toss-up with just me as the only Republican on the ballot, and my opponent, Dr. Andy Berry, being the Democrat. He's been there 6 years, done absolutely nothing. And it's time for a change, not only in my district, but the rest of the state.
That's a good point. You bring that up because I know that, in my district in Virginia, we have Abigail Spanberger, who is a freshman as well. And, in a lot of these swing districts, they all campaigned as being independent voices, and they're not in the pocket of Nancy Pelosi. And then they get there and they're voting with Nancy Pelosi 90% of the time. And now with all this impeachment talk and everything else, it was a total bait and switch across the board. And then you look at some of the policies that they focused on. I mean, at a time when Americans want to know about, they want to lower their energy costs, they want to be able to start a business, they want to have more control over their kids getting a quality education, they don't want to go bankrupt trying to get their kids through college, and then you look at what the Democrats prioritize, and it's all about insisting, it's all about basically threatening to take away money if you don't let boys compete on the girls' soccer team. I mean, that's really what they certainly didn't run on that. But that is how they're legislating. What are the issues? What are the issues within California 7 right now that you think are just really, voters are intensely aware of and they're interested in, and how do you address it?
Yeah, that's first and foremost. They're worried about the economy.
Yeah.
I mean, the economy's doing great, but that district's not doing well at all. So you got to ask the question why. What's happening in District 7 in California that's not happening across the rest of the country? That's the first issue, and I think I've got that laid out. Secondly, is the fact that we've got the homeless issue in Sacramento, and what's happening along the rivers in Sacramento are the homeless encampments have been pushed out. So they're pushing the homeless out of downtown Sac because it's affecting businesses, small businesses, people's ability to go to and from to get to work. So they're pushing out the homeless to the banks of the rivers, Sacramento, and a lot of that. I don't want to get too graphic here, but a lot of the human waste and hypodermic needles are getting into the water system and flowing down into the bay. So that's not good. So we got to figure out a solution to taking care of our homeless and making sure that they have an ability to get back into or they're either treated with mental health issues or if they're ready to go back into the workforce, we try to get them back there. And finally, like everything, for me it comes down to the military and national defense, and they've got a few bases in Sacramento. We've got a huge retiree community there, military retirement community. So the VA becomes an issue, and the VA in Sacramento is not doing their job, and we've got lots of homeless. We've got lots of retired vets that are trying to get taken care of because there's in the vicinity. There's actually 4 military bases, 2 actually in my district, and then 2 outside. And all of those veterans are looking for help. They've been to Iraq 6, 7, 8, 9 times. They're home now. They've got issues with PTSD. They've got issues with drug abuse and alcohol. And we have to do better by them. I mean, that's the promise that was made to you and me when we came in the military, and that's the promise we should be keeping to our vets forever.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you what, I think that is a huge issue where it's, the government made promises to people that actually sacrifice for the country, and those people, those veterans, are taking a back seat to these policies of Governor Newsom and others. So, look, we want to make sure that people know how to help you, how to get involved with your campaign, how to donate, how to give you the tools and resources you need to help flip the House of Representatives back to some sanity. How do they do that? Where do they look you up? What's your website?
Okay, well, several, but the one for my campaign is Buzz, B-U-Z-Z, for F-O-R, Congress.com. And we are, of course, every campaign needs money, especially when you're running in California. And I will tell you, this is kind of indicative of our race, though. Our race is going to be a national race. President Trump's launching it. And so far, Nick, 90% of our campaign fundraising is coming from out of state. So 90% of our campaign funds are coming in from people who are not affected directly by California 7. So I think that's a proof positive that the country needs to swing back. We need to put the House back so that President Trump in his next 4 years has some control in the House again, get some things done, make sure his second 4 years are as productive as his first 4 years, and we don't rewrite or let his legacy go by the board. So Buzz for Congress is the best place to find me for my campaign, but I'm all over Twitter at Buzz Patterson. I'm all over Facebook at Buzz Patterson. So please, if you're listening, follow me, ask me questions, and hopefully you help me with my campaign because we're going to win in 2020, and we're looking forward to flipping the House back.
Well, Colonel Patterson, again, thank you so much for your military service, your long military service for this country. Thank you for being willing to continue to serve. I want you to go to that website, Buzz for Congress, and learn more about him.